Facts First presents. Troubled news anchor does the unthinkable on air. If you work in broadcast journalism, you should be very careful so that you don't put your foot in your mouth while you're on the air. Now, everybody does make mistakes once in a while, but when you make a serious blunder on live television, all your friends and your enemies will witness your embarrassment in real time. More to the point, the mistake can be saved online permanently. Welcome to the Internet world. Your on-air blunder can be copied, tweeted, retweeted, and generally rebroadcast for the entire world to see who didn't see it the first time around. To ensure you don't look bad on the air, you should be very, very careful and always put your best foot forward. Well, we have some of the funniest moments that we've found on live TV. Before we get into our list, help us spread the word about Facts First by clicking that like button. Also be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our future videos. The Unwanted Guest. A TV reporter was doing her job covering the bid by Los Angeles to host the 2014 Olympics. A man decided to creep up on her, but she was concentrating on her job and didn't notice it. She only knew that he was standing behind her when she felt the man's breath on the back of her neck. She jumped away from the man and screamed in terror. She laughed off the incident afterwards when she finally recovered her wits. The point is the man was way out of line. People should let hardworking news anchors do their jobs. You don't have any reason to creep up behind a TV reporter and scare them half to death. Avoid the water when in the Netherlands. Now, we all know the Netherlands is practically floating on water. However, this does not mean that you should fall into a lagoon when you're interviewing people near the water. This Dutch reporter made a huge splash, literally, when she fell into the water while interviewing the mayor. 1 minute she was standing by the water speaking to the mayor, the next she has apparently lost her footing and ended up drenched. The mayor tried to pull her out, and so did the sound engineer. The good news is that the woman did emerge from the water wet but unharmed. Hopefully she'll be a bit more careful when she interviews people near the water in the future. Earthquake in real time. News anchors have no immunity to natural disasters. An earthquake in Los Angeles caught some news anchors with their pants down while they were presenting a program. Bemused viewers watched news anchors dive for cover after a hurried announcement on the air. Now, in fairness to the news anchors, safety first is always a good idea. In any case, viewers could hear the cameras shaking while the news anchor cowered under the desk. However, this did not stop comedians or the anchor's relatives from teasing them endlessly. Stuck in the storm. Some assignments are not exactly glamorous, and this is precisely why a Milwaukee weather correspondent lost her cool. She drew the short end of the stick, and she had to go out and give the audience live reports of a storm. She'd been standing out in the storm for hours when she decided to speak her mind about it. This forthright woman exploded on live TV and spoke her mind without editing herself. She said, "I've been standing here for many hours. The weather sucks and I have run out of things to say." Fortunately, the correspondent didn't get into any trouble for speaking her mind. Her editors found her bluntness kind of refreshing, and the audience listened to her rant with delight. Tricked by the teleprompter. We all know most news anchors read what the teleprompter tells them to say. Well, now that means that you need a teleprompter who is honest and reliable. Unfortunately for a news anchor in Alabama, the teleprompter was in the mood for pranks and fed her the wrong script. The anchor was tricked into announcing her own wedding proposal on live TV. She read out the segment as exclusive breaking news before she realized that the teleprompter had played a big prank on her. Fortunately, she said yes to the proposal. After this little piece of drama, the weather presenter reported a 100% chance of tears and joy tonight. Every viewer agreed with this accurate weather prediction. Uninvited guests captured live. Robert Kelly was discussing the impeachment of South Korean President Park Geun-hye when unexpected guests rushed into the room. The two uninvited guests were his daughters, and they were looking for some kind of attention from their father. Fortunately, their mom was on hand to ensure the girls did not distract him any further. Subsequent footage showed the woman rushing into the room and sweeping up the kids so that their dad could concentrate on the job at hand. Millions of people across the globe viewed the incident, and it made Robert Kelly an internet meme. Abnormally hot temperatures. A weather reporter has no authorization to evacuate cities. However, when temperatures get incredibly high, a smart weather reporter should do what he can for the hapless citizens trapped in those dangerous areas. And that is precisely what Corey McCloskey did when he received reports that some cities had temperatures in excess of 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. In some cities, the temperatures were even as high as 2,960 degrees. Well, the reporter knew those numbers couldn't possibly be accurate. He played on the technical error by pointing out that Arizona's hot, but it can't be that hot. He jokingly told residents in the affected areas, "Get out while you can." Hey, at least it was a dry heat, right? A grammatical matter. You expect news anchors to have a competent command of the English language. After all, these people speak English for a living. However, even a news anchor can't know all the different connotations and denotations of certain words. This male news anchor was kind of segueing into the weather forecast, and he told the meteorologist, "Maybe we can just canoodle before you get right into it." Now, predictably, the meteorologist was shocked, and she bluntly rejected the offer to canoodle. Well, that's when the nickel dropped. The news anchor admitted he had no idea what the meaning of the word canoodle actually was. He claimed that he thought it meant to chat and wanted the offending words to be taken off the air, but too late, the damage had already been done. Attacked by birds. This reporter was covering an infestation by birds when he decided to show the viewers a bird's-eye view. As it turned out, this was not the right decision because the birds attacked him almost immediately. He walked underneath a tree full of birds, and a bird promptly pooped on his shoulder. The news anchor laughed it off, but the worst was yet to come. He looked up to the trees where the birds were camping out, and another bird pooped right on his mouth. He screamed and tried to run away, but the birds were apparently so angry with some of the disparaging remarks that he was making about them in the past. They followed him and continued with their onslaught. Landed in mud. Sometimes people with good intentions make the biggest blunders. And that's clearly applicable to the gutsy reporter who was reporting on the receding water levels in the lake. To add some spice to his story, this reporter decided to jump into the presumably dry lake to show viewers how serious the problem was. He thought the ground was completely dry, but he was wrong. As it turned out, he landed knee-deep in mud. His colleagues at the news station and the camera crew laughed their heads off at his predicament. Clearly, the reporter in question learned his lesson the muddy way. He lost his shoes, and he learned not to jump into presumably dry lakes again. Talking to the air. When you're reporting live on TV, it's essential that the viewers hear what you are saying to them. Well, back in the Ronald Reagan era, the producers at a certain TV station wanted their anchor to be right in the thick of the action. Ronald Reagan had just been elected president, and the anchor was giving live reports to their viewers. Unfortunately, the news anchor was apparently deafened by the loud background noise. He kept asking the people in the studio if they could hear him, not realizing he was live. The clumsy ballerina. The reporter in Novosibirsk was covering a story about the poor conditions of the roads in the area she was covering. There were puddles in the road, and the reporter wanted to show how bad the road was by jumping across one of those puddles. Maybe she thought she had the skills and grace of a ballerina, but she didn't. She did not jump the right way and landed on her buttocks and ended up sitting in a puddle of near-freezing water on an extremely cold day in Siberia. At this point, her main concern was just a change of clothes, but nobody is certain if she packed any extras. The attractive weather girl. Jackie Guerrero is famous in her native Puerto Rico because of her skillful presentation of daily weather reports. Guerrero is a talented meteorologist and a competent presenter, but she is more famous for her choice of clothes. Some people accuse her of wearing inappropriate clothing on the air. Others feel that her clothes reveal too much of her personal assets. But not everybody shares that view. For millions of viewers, mostly the guys I would assume, Jackie is a great presenter and her racy outfits have transformed her to a celebrity with a huge following. Sleeping on air. If you're on the air, it pays to be wide awake. The problem here is that when you need to doze off a bit, forcing yourself to stay awake may not always work. Tucker Carlson found this out the hard way when he dozed off in front of the cameras. Apparently he'd fallen asleep during a commercial break. Now, the plan was to wake him up when the commercial ended, but things did not quite work out that way. His colleagues must have neglected to wake him up after the commercial break, and the cameras captured Tucker sleeping on the air, and audiences around the globe had a good laugh at his expense. Jordanian controversy. A TV station in Jordan witnessed a breakdown of law and order when two guests almost came to blows on air. Actually, the two guests did come to blows, but they didn't use their fists. Trouble started when one guest accused the other of supporting the Syrian revolution. The other responded by accusing the other of supporting Bashar Assad. Insults were freely traded on air until the duo decided to take things to another level. Both men kept pushing the table until it broke, and that gave them the weapon they were looking for all along. The two men went ahead to hit each other with parts of the detached table. Clearly, the employers of these two men were not exactly pleased with their actions, but there's no indication that the TV station took legal action against the men. A presidential announcement. Former Vice President Al Gore has never been president of the U.S., but one major TV station announced that he had been elected president after a close and controversial election. Back in 2000, CNN announced that Al Gore was the winner, but they got it wrong. The winner of the election was the one and only George W. Bush. Awkward. Subscribe for more.